The fluorescent lights inside Costco hum at a frequency you only notice when you're trying not to scream. I noticed them at 4:47 p.m. on a Tuesday, standing in the cereal aisle with my 8-year-old daughter, Maren, in a shopping cart half full of things we did not actually need. I had come in for rotisserie chicken and toilet paper. I left with neither. Maren was negotiating. That's the word she would use later when she still believed words like that mattered. She wanted the giant box of strawberry cereal that cost more than a full tank of gas. I wanted her to put it back. We had been at this for 90 seconds, which in parent time is a small geological era, when the man 2 carts down dropped his phone. He didn't pick it up. That was the first thing wrong. He just stood there looking at the screen on the floor, and his face did something I had never seen a face do in person. It went slack in a way that wasn't peaceful. His mouth opened a 1/4 inch and stayed there. His wife, I assumed wife, she had the same wedding ring, said his name twice, then a 3rd time louder, and on the 3rd time he turned and walked away from his cart, leaving her with a flat of bottled water and a confused 4-year-old in the child seat. "Dad!" Maren tugged my sleeve. "Dad, your phone!" Mine was buzzing. So was hers, the little pink one her mother had given her against my objection. So was every phone in the warehouse. 40,000 square feet of synchronized vibration. It sounded like a beehive learning a new language. I looked at the screen. Emergency alert. The text was short enough to memorize in a glance and long enough to ruin the rest of my life. Civil authorities advising immediate shelter in place. Do not attempt to travel. Avoid contact with afflicted individuals. Further information pending. Afflicted. That was the word that stuck. Maren read hers out loud because she was 8, and reading out loud was still a small victory she liked to perform. She got to afflicted and stopped. "What does that mean?" "It means sick," I said, which was true and almost nothing. The PA crackled. Some manager somewhere was being handed a script he had not rehearsed. He said the store was implementing a temporary hold on exits, that customers should remain calm, that staff would provide updates. I noticed he did not use the word lockdown. I noticed he said hold like it was a polite suggestion. Around us, the warehouse rearranged itself in slow, instinctive currents. Some people moved toward the exits. Some moved toward the back. A woman in a yellow coat began stacking cans of formula into her cart with the focus of someone packing for a country she would not return from. A teenager filmed the ceiling. A grandfather sat down on a pallet of paper towels and put his head in his hands. I crouched so my face was level with Maren's. Her eyes were brown like her mother's, and right then they were too steady, too searching. "Listen to me," I said. "We're going to stay here for a little bit, together, hand on the cart." "Okay." "You don't let go of the cart." "I know, Dad." I pulled my phone back up to call her mother. The call did not connect. I tried again. It did not connect. The 3rd time it rang twice, and then a recorded voice told me circuits were busy and I should try later. Behind me, somewhere near the produce section, a woman screamed. Not a startled scream. The other kind. The one that comes from the bottom of the lung and is shaped by the lung's understanding that nothing about today will resemble yesterday. Maren's hand tightened on the cart handle until her knuckles went pale. "Dad," she whispered, "I want to go home now." I told her we would. I knew, even as I said it, that I was already lying to my daughter for the first time about something that mattered. The man whose name I would later learn was Devin Marsh was the one who locked the front doors. He was an assistant manager, 26, narrow shoulders, a name tag that said, "Devin asked me about membership." He had been promoted 3 weeks earlier. He had never had to make a decision larger than scheduling a lunch break, and now he was standing at the front entrance with a key in his hand and 140 customers behind him, watching to see what he would do. He locked the doors. Then he locked the exit doors. Then he came on the PA and said, in a voice that wobbled only on the second sentence, that the store was closed until further notice and that nobody was to leave for their own safety. A man in a contractor's vest tried to leave anyway. He got to the doors, rattled them, turned around, and started shouting at Devin from across the registers. Devin did not move. He just held the keys in his fists like they were the last solid thing in the building. I walked Maren to the back, away from the shouting. I told her we were going to find something interesting and quiet. She did not believe me, but she came. The cereal box was still in our cart. I would remember that later. In the electronics section, a small crowd had gathered around the wall of televisions. 20 screens, all tuned to the same news channel, all showing the same shaking aerial footage of a city I didn't recognize at first, and then, with a cold drop in my stomach, did. It was downtown, 20 minutes from here. The freeway overpass I drove every morning. There were figures running on it. There were figures not running on it. And the not running ones were doing something to the running ones that the camera kept cutting away from. The ticker at the bottom of the screen said, "Do not approach. Do not engage. Shelter in place." A woman next to me said very quietly, "Oh my God, that's the Henderson exit." I steered Maren away before she could read the ticker. We ended up in the patio furniture display, of all places, where someone had set up an outdoor dining set complete with a striped umbrella and ceramic plates. Maren climbed into one of the chairs without asking. She put her hands flat on the table. "Are people dying?" she said. I sat down across from her. The umbrella threw a fake shade across her face. "Some people are getting hurt," I said. "We don't know how many yet. The important thing is that we are inside, and the doors are locked, and we have food and water and lights, and we are going to be okay until somebody comes to help us." "What if nobody comes?" "Somebody always comes." She looked at me the way she had looked at me when she was 4, and I told her the goldfish was just sleeping. I had forgotten she remembered that. A woman approached our table, mid-50s, gray hair pulled back tight, a navy fleece with a small embroidered cross above the heart. She was holding a clipboard, which was the most reassuring object I had seen all day. "I'm Ruth," she said. "I'm a nurse. I'm trying to get a count of who's here. Any medical conditions? Any kids? Mind if I sit?" "Please." She sat. She wrote down my name, Adam Locke, and Maren's. She asked if either of us took any medications. She asked if Maren had any allergies. She wrote it all down in small, even handwriting. I watched her hand move and felt my pulse drop 10 beats just from the existence of a list. "How bad is it?" I asked, low enough that Maren wouldn't catch the tone. Ruth did not look up from her clipboard. "I've been watching the same TVs you have. I think it's going to be a few days at least. Maybe longer." She finally looked at me. Her eyes were the calm of someone who had seen ER night shifts. "We need to be ready for longer." Maren was listening. Maren was always listening. "Are we sleeping here, Dad?" she asked. I looked at Ruth. Ruth gave the smallest nod, the kind that said yes, and you're going to tell her so. "Yeah, kiddo," I said. "We're having a sleepover at Costco." She didn't smile. She had stopped smiling about 20 minutes ago, but she nodded once and reached across the table to put her small hand on top of mine and held it there. That was the moment, I think, when I understood that this was not a story I was going to walk out of unchanged. By 7 p.m., the store had organized itself into something that wasn't quite order, but was no longer panic. Devin, the assistant manager, had been gently relieved of his keys by a retired firefighter named Hollis, who carried himself like furniture you couldn't move. Hollis did not take charge. He just stood near the front doors and answered questions. And over the course of 2 hours, people started directing their questions at him instead of at Devin. And that was how leadership transferred without anyone having to vote. Ruth had set up what she called a triage station near the pharmacy counter. 3 older folks with heart conditions. A pregnant woman, maybe 7 months along, named Priya. A diabetic teenager whose insulin was in a car in the parking lot that nobody was willing to retrieve yet. A man with a panic disorder who had locked himself in the family restroom and would not come out. I helped where I could. I carried bottled water. I broke down a pallet of canned goods to make a sitting area. I avoided the front of the store, where the windows were, because every time I walked past them, I saw movement in the parking lot that I did not want Maren to see. There were people out there. Some of them were running. Some of them were not people anymore. The first time I saw one up close was at 7:42 p.m. I know the time because I checked my phone, which still had no signal, and the lock screen said 7:42 and a number 14 next to the message icon, 14 texts from my ex-wife Lena that I had not been able to read because they wouldn't load. A figure walked into the small landscaped island just outside the front entrance. A man, maybe 40, business casual, one shoe missing. His jaw was wrong. That's the simplest way to say it. His jaw was wrong, and the front of his shirt was the color shirts are not supposed to be, and he was moving with a kind of patient drift that had no destination. He saw us through the glass, or rather, he saw the light. His head tracked toward it the way a sunflower tracks the sun, slow and certain. Then he ran at the door. It was the speed that broke something in me. I had expected the slow shuffle of every movie. This was a sprint, full body, arms loose, and he hit the glass with a sound like a melon dropped on the tile. The glass did not break. He hit it again. Then a third time. Then he just stood there, palms flat against the glass, mouth open, watching us. Behind him, 3 more drifted into the parking lot. A woman near me started crying without sound. Hollis put his hand on her shoulder and said very quietly, "Step back from the windows. Anybody who can hear me. Step back from the windows." I had left Maren in the patio section with Ruth. I went back to her at a walk because I did not want her to see me run. When I got there, she was sitting on the patio chair with her knees pulled up, drawing on a notepad Ruth had given her. She did not look up. "Dad," she said, "there's a girl over there. She's by herself." She pointed past the seasonal display where a small figure was standing alone next to a pyramid of pumpkin-scented candles. A girl, maybe Maren's age, maybe a year older. Red sneakers, a backpack with a unicorn on it. No adult anywhere near her. "Where are her parents?" I said. "I don't know. I asked her. She didn't say." I crouched. "Stay here with Ruth. I'll be right back." The girl looked up when I approached. Her eyes were dry, which somehow was worse than crying. I knelt at what I hoped was a non-threatening distance. "Hey," I said. "I'm Adam. What's your name?" "Iris." "Iris, are you here with someone?" She nodded. "My mom." "Where's your mom?" She pointed at the front of the store, at the windows, at the parking lot. "She went to the car," Iris said, "to get my brother's medicine. She told me to wait inside. She said she'd be 5 minutes." I looked at the windows. I looked at the figures gathering in the lot. I looked back at this child who was holding the strap of her unicorn backpack with both hands, like it was the only thing keeping her tethered to the ground. "How long ago was that, Iris?" She thought about it, carefully, the way a kid does when she's trying to be helpful. "An hour, maybe." I felt something in my chest go quiet in a way that wasn't peace. "Okay," I said. "Okay, you're going to come with me and my daughter for now. Is that all right? Just until your mom gets back." She looked at me for a long moment. Then she nodded once and took my offered hand, and I walked her back across the warehouse to where Maren was waiting with the notepad, and Maren scooted over on the patio chair without being asked and made room for her. Ruth caught my eye over the girls' heads. She didn't say anything. She didn't need to. I had come in for rotisserie chicken. I was leaving with a daughter, a borrowed child, and a debt I had not yet learned how to pay. The first night, nobody slept. Not really. Hollis organized the warehouse into zones. Sleeping zone in the back, near the tire center, where the windowless walls felt like protection even if they weren't. Medical zone at the pharmacy, food and water staging at the bakery, because the steel prep tables made good sorting surfaces. The bathrooms became a problem almost immediately. Costco's restrooms were not built for 140 people indefinitely, and a man named Carl, who had been a plumber for 31 years before he retired, took it upon himself to make a plan involving the loading dock and a great deal of bleach. I learned all of this in fragments while moving between the patio section and the medical area and the bakery. Maren refused to be more than 10 feet from me. Iris refused to be more than 10 feet from Maren. They moved as a unit, 2 small shadows in matching exhaustion, and by midnight I had stopped trying to separate them. The girls fell asleep around 2 a.m. on a nest of unboxed comforters in the bedding aisle. Ruth came by with a flashlight to check on them and clicked it off the moment she saw they were down. She sat next to me on the floor, her back against a stack of pillow-in-a-bags. "You holding up?" she asked. "I don't know yet. Honest answer. We sat for a minute. The warehouse at night was a strange country. The overhead fluorescents had been cut to half power to conserve generator fuel. Hollis had found a maintenance manager named Esme, who actually understood the building's backup systems, and the long aisles stretched into a kind of blue dusk. Somewhere a baby was crying. Somewhere else, two adults were having the kind of argument that's really about something else. Iris's mother, I said. She's not coming back, is she? Ruth was quiet. That's what I thought, I said. You don't know that. I saw the parking lot. You saw a parking lot at sunset, full of confused people, some of whom might be sick. Ruth's voice was even. We don't know what we're dealing with yet. I've been a nurse for 30 years. I've seen people walk out of things they shouldn't have. So has she, maybe? Don't bury the woman in your head before the world buries her, in fact. And if she doesn't come back? Ruth looked at the two sleeping girls. Then that child is going to need someone, and you are going to be there. And so am I, and so will other people in this building who are better than they think they are right now. She stood up, her knees cracked. She winced. Get some sleep, Adam. Even an hour. I did not sleep. I sat against the pillows and watched the girls breathe and tried to read the text from Lena that still would not load. The signal flickered for a moment around 3 a.m. 1 bar, 2 bars, and 1 text came through. Just one. Adam, are you okay, please? It was time-stamped 5:13 p.m. hours ago. I tried to reply. The reply did not send. I tried again. It sat in the queue. I left it there because leaving it there meant there was still a queue, still a system, still a world where messages traveled. At some point I must have dozed because I came back to consciousness with a jolt to the sound of glass breaking somewhere at the front of the store. It was distant. It was muffled. It was not the main entrance. The entrance had storm-rated glass that had held against 3 separate impacts so far. This was a smaller sound. A side panel. The vestibule, maybe. People were moving. Flashlight beams swept across the high ceiling. I heard Hollis's voice, low and unhurried, asking everyone to stay where they were. I eased away from the girls. Maren shifted but didn't wake. Iris's hand was curled into the hem of Maren's shirt. I caught up to Hollis at the front of the housewares aisle. He was standing with 2 other men, a younger guy in a fleece, and Devin, the assistant manager, who looked like he hadn't blinked in 8 hours. What was it? I asked. Vestibule window, Hollis said. Outer panel. The inner doors are holding. For now, Devin said. For now, Hollis agreed. Adam, you're the patio guy, right? Walk with me. I need someone to help me think out loud. We walked toward the front in the half-dark. The fluorescents up there had been left on, which in hindsight was a mistake. The light through the windows was a beacon visible from anywhere in the parking lot. There were more figures outside than there had been at sunset. A lot more. How many? I said. Not a question. I stopped counting at 60, Hollis said. There's more coming from the freeway side. They're following the light and the sound. We need to kill the front lights, and we need to keep the building as quiet as a building this size can be kept. How do you keep 140 scared people quiet? He almost smiled. It did not reach his eyes. You don't, he said. You convince them that quiet is the same thing as alive. By morning, 2 things had happened that changed the shape of everything. The first was that the power grid went down. Not the building. Esme's generator was still humming in the back, fed by a tank that Hollis estimated would last us 4 to 6 days if we were careful, 2 if we were not. The grid itself. We knew because the parking lot light, which had been on all night casting a sodium orange glow over the gathered figures outside, suddenly weren't. At 5:51 a.m., the lot went black. The figures didn't leave. They just became harder to see, which made them worse. The second was that someone tried to leave. His name was Brent. I had not spoken to him. He was a big guy in his 30s, wearing a Carhartt jacket and the kind of confidence that comes from never having been seriously wrong about anything important. He had a wife and a baby at home. That's what he kept saying, kept repeating like a credential. And he had decided around 6 a.m. that he was going to walk out the loading dock door and get to his truck and drive home. Hollis tried to talk him out of it. Ruth tried. Even Devin tried in his stammering way. Brent listened with the patience of a man not actually listening. My kid is 8 months old, he said. My wife is alone with him. You think I'm going to sit here and eat free samples while she's out there? We're not asking you to sit here forever, Hollis said. We're asking you to wait until daylight is full and we know what we're dealing with. It's daylight now. It's gray. It's not daylight. Brent looked at him. You can't keep me here. No, Hollis said. I can't. But I'm asking you to think about the door you're going to open and what comes in through it after you go out. That finally gave Brent pause. He looked at the loading dock door. He looked at the small crowd that had gathered to watch. He looked at his keys in his hand. Crack it for me, he said. I'll squeeze through. You close it behind me. They won't even know. Hollis was quiet for a long moment. Then he nodded once. Esme, he said, get the door. Esme, the maintenance manager, small gray-streaked hair, perpetually frowning, went to the panel. The dock door rose 6 inches. 8. A foot. Brent dropped to his belly and rolled under, fast. The door came back down behind him with a soft, mechanical thunk. Esme had it sealed in under 5 seconds. We could not see him from inside. The dock had no windows. Hollis went to the side door, the one with the small reinforced glass panel, and pressed his face to it. I went with him. I shouldn't have. I did. Brent was halfway across the loading area, moving low and fast when the first one came around the corner of the dumpster. He didn't see it. We did. Hollis raised a hand to the glass like he could push the warning through it. Brent saw the second one because the second one ran at him from the front. He swung, he had something in his hand, a wrench maybe, and connected. The figure went down and got back up. He made it to the corner of the building. He almost made it past. Hollis turned away from the glass before I did. He put his hand flat on the wall and breathed in once through his nose, out through his mouth. He did not look back. Walk with me, he said. We walked. We did not talk. When we got back to the main floor, he climbed onto a pallet of bottled water and raised both hands. The warehouse went quiet faster than I would have expected. Brent didn't make it, Hollis said. No softening. No frame. I'm telling you this because I want you to understand exactly what is on the other side of those doors right now. I am not your boss. I am not in charge of you. You can leave whenever you want. I will not stop you. But I will not lie to you about what will happen, and I will not open a door I do not have to open. From this point forward, the doors stay closed unless we have an agreed plan and a reason. A woman in the back asked the question everybody was thinking. How long? I don't know, Hollis said. Nobody in this building knows, but we have food for weeks, water for a long time if we're careful, power for days, medicine for the people who need it most for a while. We have a building designed to hold a lot of weight, with concrete walls and steel shelving, and one entrance worth defending. We are better off than 99% of the people out there right now. I would like us to act like it. Nobody clapped, nobody cheered. That was the right response. They just looked at him and at each other and slowly went back to whatever they had been doing, which was mostly waiting. I went back to the betting aisle. Maren was sitting up, awake, her arm around Iris's shoulders. She looked at me, and I could see in her face that she had heard the announcement, or some version of it, and that she had understood more than I wanted her to. Dad, she said, is Iris's mom coming back? Iris was looking at the floor. I sat down on the comforters across from them. I made myself look at Iris when I answered. I don't know, sweetheart, I said. I really don't know. But I know that right now we have each other, and we're going to take care of each other, and that is the truest thing I can tell you. Iris did not cry. She just nodded, once, and leaned a little closer into Maren. Maren did not look away from me. There was something new in her eyes, something that had not been there yesterday in the cereal aisle. I did not have a name for it then. I would later. It was the beginning of the version of her I was going to have to learn. The days began to take a shape. Day 3, day 4, day 5. I marked them on the back of a sales flyer I kept folded in my pocket because the phones had all died by day 4 and the calendar in my head had stopped working sometime around the second night. We settled into roles without ever quite assigning them. Hollis was the closest thing we had to a leader, though he never used the word. Ruth ran medical with 2 volunteers, a nursing student named Trent and a retired pharmacist named Mrs. Okafor, who knew which expired medications could still be safely used and which had become poison. Esme kept the building alive in ways most of us did not understand and did not need to. Devin, to his credit, became Hollis's shadow, watching everything, learning fast, his stammer fading a little more each day. I became somehow the food guy. I'm not sure how. I think it was because on day 2 I had voluntarily broken down 3 pallets without being asked, and Hollis had filed that information away. And on day 3 he had asked me to help organize a rationing system, and on day 4 I was the one people came to when they wanted an extra granola bar for a kid who wouldn't eat. Maren and Iris became inseparable. I do not have a softer word for it. Where one went, the other went. They built a fort in the bedding section out of mattress pads and shelf brackets. They named it the Tower. They had rules for entry. They drew maps of the tower with crayons from the school supplies aisle. I watched my daughter parent another child. It was unbearable and beautiful in the same breath. On day 5, Iris asked me a question while Maren was at the bathroom with Ruth. Adam, she said. She had stopped calling me anything for a while, and the use of my name was new and careful. If my mom doesn't come back, what happens to me? I had been waiting for this question. I had rehearsed answers. None of them came out. What do you want to happen? I said finally. She thought about it for a long time. She picked at the unicorn on her backpack, which had begun to fray. I want to stay with you and Maren, she said, until something else. Then that's what happens, I said. Until something else. She nodded once. The conversation was over. She went back to drawing in her notepad. I sat there with my hands on my knees and tried to absorb the weight of the promise I had just made without having any clear idea how I would keep it. That night, Hollis pulled me aside. We have a problem, he said. We were standing near the back of the store, in the small office Esme used as her base. The office had a working radio, an old emergency band unit Esme had wired into a battery, and Hollis had been listening to it in increments, turning it off the moment he had learned anything useful so as not to drain the battery. What problem? 2 problems, technically. First, the crowd outside is getting bigger and louder. They've started piling up against the front. They can smell us or hear us or sense us, I don't know. The front doors will hold. The vestibule outer glass already broke. The inner doors are reinforced steel and they will hold. But every day there's more of them, and every day the math gets worse. And second, he looked at me for a long moment. Second, the radio chatter has stopped saying, evacuation is coming. It started saying, if you can move, move. It started saying the cities are gone. It started saying smaller and smaller things, and the gaps between transmissions are getting longer. I let that sit. How long do we have? I said. Before what? Before we have to decide. He nodded slowly. That's the right question. I don't have a number for you, but I want you in the conversation when we have it. You and Ruth and Esme and Devin and a couple of others. We need to start thinking about the day after the day we stop being safe here. You want to leave? I don't want to. I think we're going to have to. Not now, but sooner than I'd like. I thought about Iris's question, about Maren's face when she heard the announcement on day 2, about the tower in the bedding aisle. Hollis, I said, if we leave when we leave, there are going to be people who can't come. The pregnant woman, Mrs. Vance with the oxygen, maybe the diabetic kid, depending. What do we do about them? He looked at me with the kind of steady that comes from having already thought about it. That, he said, is the conversation I need you in for. I went back to the bedding aisle. The girls were already asleep, curled together in the tower. Maren had her arm thrown over Iris's shoulders again. Iris was holding the unicorn backpack like a pillow. I sat down outside the tower and watched them, and I thought about leaving, and I knew with a certainty that surprised me that when the time came I was going to have to tell my daughter we could not stay in the only safe place she had known for a week, and she was going to look at me with that new look in her eyes, and she was going to refuse. I was right about that. I was just wrong about when. It happened on day 9. We had a planning meeting in the back office at 9 p.m. Hollis, Ruth, Esme, Devin, Carl the plumber, and me. 6 of us crammed into a space designed for one person and a filing cabinet. The radio sat in the middle of the desk like a small, dead animal. The fuel situation is the deadline, Esme said without preamble. Generator runs another 5 days at current load. I can stretch it to 7 if we cut the lights to emergency only and shut down half the freezers. Past 7, we have no power. No power means no lights, no refrigeration, no automatic doors if we need to move people through them, no anything. What about the food? Ruth asked. Dry goods will last us months, I said. Canned goods longer. Water is the issue that we have what's on the shelves, but once the city pressure drops, the tap goes too. I'd guess we have 8 to 10 days of drinking water if we're strict. In the crowd outside? Hollis asked. Devin answered. He had been keeping account, peering through the high windows in the office mezzanine with a pair of binoculars from Sporting Goods. 311 yesterday, 340-something this morning. They're packed against the front. The inner doors are holding, but I can hear the glass flexing when they push together. If a panel goes, the doors themselves will still hold, but the noise alone will draw more. And we can't go out the front, Hollis said. We were never going out the front, Esme said. Then where? Ruth said. Hollis looked at me. He had been waiting to say this part. There's a fire exit on the east side of the building, by the tire center. It opens onto a service alley that connects to a side street. From the side street, it's about 2 blocks to a parking garage. There are vehicles in that garage. If we can get to the garage and find a vehicle that runs, we can get north. There's a community college about 40 miles north of here that the radio has mentioned twice as a possible safe zone. I don't know what we'll find there. I know we won't find anything here much longer. How many can go? Ruth asked. Hollis looked at her steadily. Everyone who can move on their own power, anyone who can't is going to have a choice to make. The room went very quiet. You're talking about leaving people, Carl said. I'm talking about offering them a choice, Hollis said. There are people in this building who cannot walk 2 blocks in the open without slowing the group down enough to kill all of us. They know who they are. They've been talking to Ruth. Some of them have already said they'll stay. Some of them, Ruth said quietly. Not all of them. Not all of them. Mrs. Vance with the oxygen. Mr. Halpern, who had had a stroke 3 years ago and walked with a 4-point cane. Priya, who was 7 months pregnant and had begun to swell badly in the last 2 days. 3 others I had been trying not to think about. What about Iris? Ruth said. She said it directly to me. Iris comes with us, I said. She's mine now. Nobody questioned it. Not even Hollis. He just nodded once. Then it's settled in principle, he said. We start prepping tomorrow. We go in 3 days. That gives us time to organize, to make packs, to scout the alley from the roof, to give people time to make their choices. 3 days. Quiet, controlled, intentional. We agreed. We broke. I went back to find Maren. She was waiting for me outside the office. She had her arms crossed in a way I knew. Iris was a step behind her, holding the unicorn backpack with both hands. How long were you out here? I said. Long enough. I closed my eyes for a second. We're not leaving. Maren, we're not leaving. She said it the same way her mother used to say things she had already decided. Her chin was set. Her eyes were not angry. They were something worse than angry. They were certain. Iris's mom said 5 minutes, Maren said. Iris's mom said, wait inside. If we leave and her mom comes back and we're not here, sweetheart, don't, sweetheart, listen to me. No. She stepped between me and Iris like a small soldier. You don't get to decide this. Not just you. Iris has a mom, and her mom told her to wait. And we promised that we would take care of her. And taking care of her means being here when her mom comes back. Iris was looking at the floor. She had not said a word. Her hands were tight on the backpack. I crouched down, slowly. I made myself look at both of them. Maren, I need to say something true and you need to listen. Iris's mom has been gone for 9 days. 9 days outside in what's happening out there. I want her to come back. I want that more than you understand. But the longer we wait, the smaller the chance we get to anywhere safe at all. And if we're not safe, we can't take care of Iris. We can't take care of anyone." Maren's eyes were full. She did not let them spill. "Then we wait one more day," she said. "Just one. Maren, we have 3 days. Then we use all 3. You said 3, so we use 3. And on the 3rd day, if she's not back, then—" She stopped. She did not say, "Then we go." She could not make her mouth form it. I looked at Iris. Iris finally looked at me. "It's okay," Iris said. Her voice was very small. "I think she's not coming, Adam." The thing that broke in me at that moment was not loud. It was just a small, quiet break, like a piece of china hitting carpet. A clean fracture you would not notice until you tried to use the cup. "We have 3 days," I said. "We use all 3. We watch every door, every minute. If she comes back in 3 days, she comes with us. All right?" Maren nodded once, fierce. Iris nodded, slower. I held them both, one in each arm, in the half-dark of the warehouse at night. And I made a promise that I knew, even as I made it, was a promise to my daughter and not to the world. The next 2 days had a strange double rhythm. On one track, we prepared to leave packs assembled from camping gear, water rationed and bottled into manageable sizes, shoes traded for better shoes from the apparel section, a route memorized from a hand-drawn map of the alley. On the other track, we watched the doors. Maren took the morning shifts. Iris took the afternoons. I took the evenings. Ruth, without being asked, took the nights, and I would find her in the gray hour before dawn, sitting on an upturned bucket by the side fire door. The small, reinforced window at eye level, her hands wrapped around a cup of instant coffee that had gone cold an hour ago. "You don't have to do this," I told her on the second morning. "I know I don't. Why are you?" She looked at me. Her face in the half-light was older than I had let myself notice. "Because that child is going to remember who waited," she said. "And I want her to remember that more than one person did." I sat with her until full light. Neither of us spoke. The fire door's small window looked out on an empty alley. A plastic bag turned over slowly in a breeze. Nothing else moved. Nothing else came. On the afternoon of the second day, Hollis took me up to the roof. We accessed it through a hatch in the back of the warehouse, behind the tire center. The ladder was steel and rust-flecked, and the hatch opened onto a flat tar roof under a gray sky. The smell up there was the first thing: smoke, somewhere distant. The kind of smoke that meant a building, not a campfire. The horizon to the south had a smudge in it. We crouched and crossed to the front edge. The parking lot was a sea, a literal sea of figures, packed so tight against the front of the building that the cars in the front rows were no longer visible. They moved in slow currents, the way a crowd at a concert moves between songs. Some were pressed to the glass. Some had given up and were just standing. Some were walking in slow circles. The sound of them, from above, was a low hum that I realized was hundreds of throats producing the same not-quite-human sound at slightly different pitches. I had to look away. "That's why we don't open the front doors," Hollis said. "Yeah." He pointed east. The alley was visible from where we crouched, narrow, lined with dumpsters, mostly clear. A few figures wandered at the far end where it met the street. But the immediate stretch behind the building was passable if we moved fast and quiet. "That's our window," Hollis said. "We exit through the fire door. We move single file along the building. We turn left at the dumpster line, 2 blocks to the garage. If we move at a steady pace and don't make sound, we can do it in 12 minutes. With kids. With kids. With kids who haven't been outside in 12 days. Yeah." I looked at the alley. I looked at the smudge of smoke on the southern horizon. I looked at the rooftops of the buildings between us and where we needed to go, and I tried to imagine my daughter and Iris walking that distance in silence, in daylight, with what was in the parking lot only a building width away. "Hollis," I said, "are we sure about this?" "No," he said. "I'm not sure about anything. I'm just more not sure about staying." We climbed back down. That evening, Iris came to find me in the food staging area. I was sorting energy bars by calorie density, because that's the kind of thing your hands need to do when your head is doing too much. Adam, she said, I want to talk to you. I sat down on a pallet. She climbed up next to me. She did not have the backpack with her. She had left it with Maren, who was at the side door for the evening shift. I've been thinking, Iris said, the careful, measured way she had of talking, like every word had been laid out on a table and inspected. About my mom. Okay. I think she would want me to go with you. I did not answer. She told me to wait inside because she thought she was coming back, Iris said. She didn't tell me to wait inside forever. If she knew she wasn't coming back, she would have told me different. She would have told me to find someone safe and stay with them. She looked at me with her dry eyes. You're someone safe, she said. I had to wait a long moment before I could answer. Iris, I said, if we leave and your mom comes back to this place looking for you and you're not here, that is going to be the worst day of her life. And I don't ever want to be the reason for that. I know. But she didn't come on day 1, or day 2, or day 3. Iris's voice did not shake. It was the most adult voice I had ever heard from a child. And every day she doesn't come, the chance she comes is smaller. I am 8 years old and I know that, Adam. I know that. I put my hand on her small back. I did not pull her in. I just rested it there. Will you tell Maren, she said. She's the hard one. She made me promise we'd wait. I'll tell her. Don't make me be the one, please. I won't make you be the one. She nodded, slid off the pallet, and walked back toward the tower in the bedding aisle. I sat there for a long time with my hand still in the shape of her back. I told Maren that night. I waited until she was in the tower with Iris, until the lights had dimmed to emergency only, until the warehouse had settled into the strange hush that passed for nighttime here. I sat outside the tower on the floor and asked her to come out and talk to me alone. She came out. She did not look surprised. Iris, inside the tower, lay very still and pretended to be asleep, which is what 8-year-olds do when they want to listen. Iris and I talked, I said. She wants to come with us. Maren did not say anything. She thinks her mom would want her to, I said. She thinks her mom told her to wait inside because her mom believed she was coming back, and she doesn't believe that anymore. Maren's mouth did the thing it did when she was trying not to cry. A tight pull at the corners. You convinced her, she said. I didn't. You convinced her, Dad. Maren, I didn't. She came to me. She told me. I did not bring it up. Maren turned her face away. The half-light caught the side of her jaw, and I saw, for the first time in days, how thin she had gotten, how long her hair had grown unwashed, how much she had changed in 12 days. You promised me 3 days, she said. It's been almost 3 days. It's been 2. It's been 2.5, and the situation has changed. There are more of them outside. The fuel is running down faster than Esme thought. People are getting sick from the stress. We need to go tomorrow, not the day after. She turned back to me. Her face was wet now. She did not bother to hide it. You're breaking your promise. Yes, I said. I am, and I am sorry, and if there were any other way, I would take it. There isn't. She was quiet for a long moment. Then she said very softly, what if I was the one who got lost? What if it was me who went to the car? Would you leave? The question hit me in a place I had not armored. Maren, would you? No, I said. I wouldn't. I would tear this building apart looking for you. I would wait forever. I would die here waiting. And that is exactly what I am afraid Iris's mom did, or worse. And it is exactly what I will not do to you, because I am your father, and my job is to get you to the next day. Every day. As many next days as I can. Even when that means doing something that feels like betraying somebody. She looked at me. She was 8 years old, and she was looking at me the way an adult looks at another adult who has just admitted something difficult. Okay, she said. Okay. I'll go. I'll help. But Dad, yeah. We have to leave something for her, For Iris's mom, in case she comes back. We have to leave a note where she'll see it, with where we went and our names, and a way to find us. All right, and we have to mean it. We can't just write it to make Iris feel better. We have to leave it somewhere she'll really see it, and we have to mean that we want her to come. Maren, we will mean it. We will leave a real note, I promise. Don't promise me anymore, she said. Just do it. She turned and crawled back into the tower. I heard her settle next to Iris. I heard her whisper something I could not catch. I heard Iris whisper back. I sat against the shelving and let myself cry, quietly for the first time since the cereal aisle. Not for the world ending, which I had not yet wrapped my head around. Just for my daughter. For the thing I had asked her to grow into in 12 days. For the parts of her I was going to lose to it. I cried for about a minute. Then I wiped my face, got up, and went to find a piece of paper and a marker, because I had a note to write that needed to be true. The note went up at 5 a.m. We taped it to the inside of the front vestibule glass, facing out, so anyone who came to the entrance could read it through the door without us having to open anything. I wrote it. Maren approved every word. Iris signed her name at the bottom in careful block letters. To anyone looking for Iris. Iris is alive. Iris is safe. She is with Adam Locke and his daughter Maren. We left this place on day 12. We are going north to the community college in Brookfield to find a safe zone. If you are reading this and you are Iris's mother, please come. We will wait for you there as long as we possibly can. We are sorry we could not wait here longer. We love her too. We taped it up with packing tape, all 4 sides, and Iris pressed her palm against the glass over her own name for a second before she turned away. The group that gathered at the fire door at 6 a.m. was smaller than I had hoped. 43 people, out of the 140 who had started. The rest had chosen to stay. Mrs. Vance with her oxygen, Mr. Halpern with his cane, Priya, who had decided that the walk in the open and the running were not survivable for her at 7.5 months, and who would take her chances inside with the food and water that remained. 11 others. They had said their goodbyes the night before. There were not enough tears for what was happening. There never are. Hollis would lead. Devon was second, with the route memorized. Carl carried a heavy wrench. A man I did not know well, named Marcus, carried a baseball bat from the sporting goods aisle. I had a tire iron. I did not want it. I carried it anyway. Ruth was at the back of the group where the kids were. Maren and Iris held hands. Maren had her own small backpack, purple, from the school supplies aisle, packed with 3 water bottles, a flashlight, 2 granola bars, a pair of socks, and her notepad with the crayon maps. Iris had the unicorn backpack she had walked in with 12 days ago. It was a little dirtier now. She had not let it out of her sight. Esme was at the door. She would not be coming. She had decided to stay with Priya and the others, to keep the building running for them as long as it would run, to be the person they had when there was no one else. I had argued with her the night before. She had heard me out and then told me gently that she had made her choice and I was not to disrespect it by trying to change it. I had hugged her. She had hugged back hard. You ready? Hollis said. No, half the group said. He smiled faintly. Good, let's go. Esme cracked the door. 6 inches, a foot. The morning light came in gray and cold. The alley was empty. The sound of the front of building crowd was a distant low murmur, muffled by the building between us and them. Hollis went first. He stepped out, looked both ways, and waved us through. We moved in single file. Quiet, quiet. The order was hold the hand of the person in front. Do not speak. Do not run unless someone runs. Follow the leader. Do not stop. Maren had my hand. Iris had Maren's. Ruth was behind Iris, a steady presence. The alley smelled like the world. After 12 days inside a sealed building, the smell of outside was overwhelming: wet concrete, smoke, decay, the strange organic note that I would not let myself name. The air on my face felt like a slap I had not been ready for. We made it past the first dumpster, the second, the third. The girls were quiet. The whole group was quiet. The sound of 43 people walking quietly is still a sound. I kept waiting for something to hear us. At the end of the alley, Hollis raised a fist. We stopped. He peered around the corner. He looked back. He held up 2 fingers, then pointed left. 2 of them. Down the street to the left, not looking our way. He waved us across, one at a time, moving low. I went with the girls when our turn came. We crossed the alley mouth in a fast, crouched walk, holding hands, and I kept my eyes locked on the 2 figures down the street. And they did not turn, and we made it to the cover of the next building's wall. I exhaled. I had not realized I was holding it. We moved along the next wall, a storefront with the windows broken in, a bus stop with a sign that still glowed faintly with municipal optimism, a car on its side. Things had happened here that I did not have time to read. Half a block, 3/4. We could see the parking garage now, 200 yards ahead. Its concrete bulk, a kind of promise. That was when the dog started barking. It was inside one of the storefronts we had passed. Small, trapped, hungry probably, terrified. It had heard us, smelled us, and had decided that barking was the only thing it could do. It would not stop. Hollis raised his fist again. We froze. The 2 figures down the street had turned. They were looking. They were moving. Faster, Hollis said. Quiet, even. But not running. Not yet. We walked faster. The dog kept barking. More figures appeared at the far end of the street, drawn by the sound. Then more behind them. The street was filling up between us and the way we had come. The garage was 150 yards ahead. Now run, Hollis said. Children in the middle. Stay together. We ran. I will not pretend I remember every step. I remember pieces. I remember Maren's hand in mine and how small it felt and how hard she gripped. I remember Iris on her other side, her unicorn backpack bouncing against her shoulders, her red sneakers slapping the pavement. I remember a man named Thomas, who had been 3 rows back in the file, falling. I do not know if he tripped or if something caught him. I remember Hollis shouting at us not to stop. I remember Ruth's hand on my back pushing me forward when I instinctively slowed. I remember not turning around. I remember the entrance of the parking garage rising up in front of us like a cave mouth. The concrete dim and cool, the smell of motor oil and old urine and shelter. I remember Devin at the entrance with his bat, waving us in, counting heads, his face white. I remember Hollis the last one in, turning, slamming his shoulder against the rolling gate at the entrance, getting it down 1/3 of the way before Carl joined him. Then Marcus, then 2 others, and the gate came down with a metal clatter that rang through the whole structure. He locked it with a padlock he had brought for this exact purpose. From the wrong side of the gate, hands appeared. A face. 2 faces. They pressed against the metal. I remember the count. Hollis did it twice, slowly. 43 had left. 39 had arrived. Tomas. A woman named Rachel. A man whose name I had not learned. A teenager named Kai. We did not have time to grieve them. We had 10 minutes maybe before the noise of the gate brought more. Keys, Hollis said. Cars, move. The garage had 3 levels. We split into teams of 3 or 4 checking vehicles. Most were locked. Some had keys in the ignition or visor people who had abandoned them in a hurry days ago, hoping someone else could use them. Most of those did not start. The batteries had died, or the fuel had been siphoned, or something else had gone wrong in the way of all things during the end of the world. I had Maren and Iris with me because I would not let them out of my sight, and I checked the 2nd level while they stayed in a stairwell with Ruth. I found a Honda with keys but a dead battery, a pickup with no keys, a minivan with keys and a quarter tank, and a battery that turned over on the 2nd try. I drove it to the entrance. Hollis had found a box truck. Devin had found a sedan. Marcus had found another van. We had 4 vehicles for 39 people. It was going to be tight. It was going to work. We loaded fast. The noise outside was building. The crowd at the gate had tripled. They were pressing on it, and the gate was holding, but the gate had not been designed for this kind of sustained force. I got Maren and Iris into the minivan first, buckled them. Ruth got in the front passenger seat. Three more people climbed in the back, a couple I didn't know well, and Mrs. Okafor, the pharmacist, who had refused to leave behind a duffel bag of medications that she said would matter where we were going. Adam, Hollis called. He was at the box truck. You good to drive? I'm good. You follow me out. Devin follows you. Marcus brings up the rear. We go fast. We don't stop. If a vehicle goes down, we don't stop. Anyone in that vehicle is on their own to get into another vehicle, and they have to do it at speed. Are we clear? Clear. I looked at Maren in the rear view. Her eyes were huge. Iris was holding her hand. Hang on to each other, I said. No matter what. We are, Maren said. Hollis went to the exit gate, the opposite end of the garage from where we had come in, and unlocked it. He pulled it up. The street outside was clearer than the entrance side. He sprinted back to the box truck, climbed in, and started it. The engine was loud. Everything was loud now. The crowd at the entrance gate, drawn by the engine sounds, surged. The gate at the entrance gave. It did not break. It bent inward enough that a body could fit through. One did, then another. Go! Hollis said over the open windows. Go, go, go! He pulled out. I pulled out behind him. Devin behind me. Marcus behind Devin. We hit the street and turned north. I drove with both hands on the wheel and my daughter and Iris in the back seat and Ruth beside me, and I watched the box truck's taillights, and I tried not to look at the things in the street that we were driving past, around, sometimes over. Ruth kept up a low, steady stream of words to the girls, telling them about the trees they would see when we got out of the city, the open fields, the lake she remembered from her childhood that was somewhere near Brookfield. I do not know if the girls listened. I do not know if it mattered. The sound of Ruth's voice was its own kind of shelter. Behind us in the rear view, the city receded. Smoke rose from 3 different places. A helicopter passed overhead, going the other way, and did not stop. The minivan smelled like old French fries and someone's perfume, and the rising sweat of 6 people trying not to die. We made the freeway. The freeway was a wreck of abandoned cars, but the shoulder was clear in long stretches, and Hollis knew how to drive a box truck on a shoulder. We followed. Maren reached forward from the back seat and put her small hand on my shoulder. Just rested it there. She did not say anything. She did not need to. I drove. Brookfield was a 40-mile drive that took us 6 hours. We had to backtrack twice. We had to abandon the freeway and take a service road that took us through a town that had burned. We had to wait, engines off, in the parking lot of an abandoned gas station for 40 minutes, while a herd, Hollis called it that, and the words stuck of several hundred figures crossed the road ahead of us, drawn by something we never saw. We lost Devin's sedan on a back road about 10 miles out of Brookfield. A tire blew on something sharp, and the car went into a ditch, and the 4 people inside scrambled into the box truck and Marcus's van in a frantic 2 minutes, and we left the sedan behind. Nobody was hurt. It was the closest thing to good news we had had all day. We arrived at the Brookfield Community College at 4 p.m. It was real. That was the first surprise. It was actually real. There were fences, chain link, hastily erected, 12 feet high, lined with razor wire. There were people on the fences with rifles. There was a gate with a checkpoint, and the checkpoint had a sign that said, Brookfield Community Shelter, all welcome, quarantine required. Hollis pulled up to the gate. A woman in a National Guard uniform, actual rank insignia, approached the truck and spoke to him through the window. He spoke back. He gestured at our convoy. She nodded, said something into a radio, and waved us through. We pulled into a parking lot that had been converted into an intake area. Tents, folding tables, people in scrubs with clipboards, a line of folding chairs where new arrivals sat to be processed, a water station, a medical tent, the smell of food cooking somewhere, actual food, soup maybe, the most miraculous smell I had encountered in 2 weeks. The woman from the gate came over to us as we climbed out of the vehicles. She introduced herself as Captain Reyes. She told us briefly and efficiently what would happen next. Quarantine for 48 hours in a separate dormitory wing, observation for symptoms, basic medical screening, registration. After that, integration into the main shelter population. There were currently, she said, around 600 people at the site. They had power, water, food for a long time, and a defensive perimeter that had held for 9 days. You said all welcome, I said. Even kids without family? She looked at me, then at Iris, who was standing next to Maren, holding the unicorn backpack. Especially kids without family, she said. I think it was at that moment that I let myself believe we had made it. Not safely, not finally, but to somewhere with walls and other people and a chance. The intake nurse who processed us was a kind, exhausted woman named Marina. She wrote down our names. Adam Locke, Maren Locke. Iris, what's your last name, sweetheart? Iris Cordero. She wrote it down. She wrote it down on the line under family group with ours. She looked up at me. Guardian? Yes, I said, without hesitating, without looking at Iris first. But I looked at Iris after. She was looking back at me. Her eyes were dry, the way they had been since the second day. She nodded once, very small. Then she looked away. Maren took her hand. Marina wrote Adam Locke, Guardian, next to Iris's name. The pen made a small scratch in the silence between us. We were taken to the quarantine wing, a converted classroom with cots, blankets, a single window with bars. Ruth was assigned to a cot across the room. Hollis and Devin and Carl and Marcus were in another wing. Mrs. Okafor and her duffel bag of medications had been pulled aside by a doctor who recognized her name from somewhere and wanted her in the medical wing. The girls climbed onto one cot together. They were asleep in 5 minutes. Both of them in the same position, foreheads almost touching. Ruth came over and sat on the cot next to mine. You did it, she said. We did it. I watched you. You did it. I shook my head. I almost didn't. I almost waited too long. If Iris hadn't... Stop. Ruth put her hand on my arm. Stop. You did what a parent does. You listened. You learned. You moved. You don't get to take that apart now. I looked at the two sleeping girls, at Iris's small dark head next to my daughter's tangled brown hair, at the unicorn backpack on the floor, half fallen open, a small folded photograph just visible inside. I had not seen the photograph before. Iris had been careful about that. Ruth, I said, what do we do now? She thought about it for a long moment. We sleep, she said, and then we get up tomorrow, and we figure out what tomorrow needs, and then we do the same thing the day after. That's all there is now. That's all there ever is. I lay down on the cot. I had not lain down on anything that wasn't a stack of bedding aisle comforters in 12 days. My back made a sound it had not made before. I thought I would be awake for hours. I was asleep in 2 minutes. The community college held for 6 weeks. Then it didn't. I will not draw out what happened. A breach in the southwest fence in the middle of the night. A failure of the watch rotation. The mass on the other side bigger than anyone had estimated. Captain Reyes died trying to organize an evacuation. Hollis died helping a family across the parking lot to a school bus. Ruth made it onto the bus. So did Mrs. Okafor. So did Devin, with a wound on his arm that would later not be a bite, thank God, but a deep cut from chain link. So did Maren. So did Iris. So did I. We drove north again. We drove until the bus ran out of fuel, and then we walked, and then we found another vehicle, and then we drove some more. The story of that month is not a story I'm going to tell here. There are too many names. There are too many small kindnesses and too many small horrors, and they would crowd out the only thing I'm trying to say. What I am trying to say is this. We made it. The three of us. We made it to a place that, 2 months after the college fell, is something like a town again. It is on the lake Ruth used to talk about. There are walls and farms and a school, and a woman who used to be a judge who has the unspoken job of settling disputes when they arise. There are about 400 of us. We have been here now for almost a year. Maren is 9. She is taller. She is quieter than she used to be, and she laughs at things she would not have laughed at before. Dark, small laughs that I am still learning to interpret. She is the best reader in her age group at the school. She is fierce in ways I did not teach her, and tender in ways I did not earn. Iris is 9 too. Their birthdays are 2 weeks apart, which neither of them knew until they got here, and a teacher made them put their birthdays on a wall. She still has the unicorn backpack. It is too small for her now, but she uses it as a pillow. She calls me Adam still, never Dad, and that is a line she has drawn that I respect and do not push. She calls Maren her sister. Maren calls Iris her sister. They are a unit that no amount of paperwork will ever be more true than. Ruth lives 2 doors down. She runs the small clinic. She is teaching 3 apprentices, including a 15-year-old who reminds her, she says, of herself at that age. She comes for dinner on Sundays. She has become, without ceremony, the girl's grandmother. Neither of them questions this. Neither does she. I think about the Costco often. I think about the people we left there. Esme, Priya, Mrs. Vance, Mr. Halpern. I do not know what happened to any of them. I will probably not ever know. I have made my peace with not knowing, the way you make peace with a wound that is closed but will never not be there. I think about Iris's mother. I think about her almost every day. I think about her in that parking lot, in the first hour, walking to a car for her son's medicine. I think about whatever happened to her, which I will never know either. I think about the note we left on the inside of the vestibule glass, and whether anyone ever read it, and whether the words "we love her too" meant anything to anyone in the time before that building was overrun. I think they did. I have to think they did. The alternative is unbearable, and I do not have room in my life for one more unbearable thing. Maren and I talked last week about the day we left the Costco. We were sitting on the porch of the small house we share with Iris. The lake was bright and cold below us. The girls had been at school. Iris was inside reading. "Dad," Maren said, "do you remember what I said to you that night about not breaking promises?" "I remember. I was wrong." "Maren." "No. Listen, I was wrong because some promises are smaller than the thing they're a promise to. And I was 8, and I didn't know that. And you did. And you did it anyway." I did not know what to say to that. I am not sure there was anything to say. She leaned against me. We watched the lake for a long time. "I'm glad we left," she said eventually. "I'm glad we brought her with us. I'm glad we're here. I'm glad I have a sister. I'm glad you're still my dad. I'm glad you're still my daughter." "I never wasn't." "No," I said. "You never weren't." The sun went down. The lake turned silver. Iris came out onto the porch in her pajamas and sat on Maren's other side without saying anything. And the 3 of us sat there until the first stars came out, which in this part of the country, with the cities all gone, is a thing worth watching. There is one more thing. Last spring, almost a year after we left the Costco, a man walked into the trading post at the edge of town. He had a beard down to his chest and a limp and a small canvas bag of things to trade. He said he had walked here from the south. He had been walking, on and off, for 8 months. He had spent some of that time in a warehouse, a big warehouse, a Costco, he said. He had been one of the people who survived a long time there. Eventually, he said, the building had been compromised, and most of the people had not made it out. He had. A few others had. He did not name them. He looked like a man who did not name names anymore, because the names had become too heavy to carry around in his mouth. The trading post manager who knew our story. Everyone in a town of 400 knows everyone's story sent for me. I sat down with the man in the back room of the post. I brought him water. I brought him a piece of bread. He ate slowly, like a person who had learned to eat slowly. I asked him if he remembered a note on the inside of the front vestibule. A note about a little girl named Iris. He stopped chewing. He looked at me for a long time. "I remember it," he said. "You read it. Many times, we all did. It was the only piece of paper in that building that had hope on it." I had to wait a moment before I could ask the next question. "Did anyone ever come for her?" "A woman. Her mother." He looked at his hands. "There was a woman," he said. "She came on day 14, 2 days after you left. She had been hurt. She had a wound on her leg that she had been treating herself. She was very weak. We let her in through the side door. She read the note. She sat under it for a long time. She made me promise that if I ever made it out, and I ever found a place with people, I would tell anyone I met about Iris Cordero and where she had gone, in case the path ever came around again. I could not speak. She didn't make it, Adam, the man said gently. He had not asked my name. He knew it from the note. Her wound was bad. Ruth, was that the nurse? Ruth would have known what to do. We didn't have a Ruth. She passed 3 days after she came in. Peacefully, I want you to know, with people around her, holding the note in her hand. I closed my eyes. She wanted me to tell Iris something, if I ever found her. She made me memorize it. I have carried it with me for almost a year. May I tell it to you, to give to her? Please. He cleared his throat. He spoke the way a person speaks when the words have been worn smooth by repetition. Tell her this. I am so sorry I did not come back in 5 minutes. I tried. The world would not let me. I am so glad someone good found you. I am so glad you were not alone. I have loved you every minute of every day. I will love you in whatever comes next. Be brave, be kind. Let yourself be loved, Mama. I sat with that for a long time. The man let me. He understood. I walked home in the late afternoon. The light was gold on the lake. The girls were on the porch, doing homework on a low table Maren had built with my help last fall. I sat down with them. I asked Maren if she could go inside for a few minutes. She looked at my face. She did not ask why. She went. I told Iris. I told her about the man. I told her about her mother. Day 14, the side door, the note in her hand. I told her her mother had passed peacefully. I told her, word for word, what her mother had asked me to say. Iris listened with her whole body. She did not cry at first. She just listened. Then she did cry, and it was the first time since I had known her, and it was a long time, and I held her, and Maren came back out of the house without being called and held her from the other side, and the three of us sat on the porch with the lake going dark below us and let her have her grief in the only way you can let a person have a grief, which is fully and without trying to fix it. When she was done, she sat up. She wiped her face. She looked at me. Adam, she said, yeah, thank you for being safe. I did not have words. I put my hand over my eyes. I did not have words for a long time. Iris, I said finally, thank you for trusting me. She nodded. Dad, she said. It was the first time. She would say it many times after. But it was the first time. I did not say anything. I just pulled both of them in and held them and watched the last of the light go out of the lake and let myself for one quiet moment be exactly the thing I had been trying to be for almost 2 years. A father. To both of them. To the end. I do not tell this story often. I am telling it now because Maren asked me to on her 10th birthday when she said she wanted a record of the year we did not talk about so that she could come back to it when she was older and understand it again from the outside. So this is for her and for Iris and for Ruth, who is in the next room asleep in the chair she falls asleep in every Sunday, and for Hollis, who I think about every time I have to make a decision I do not want to make, and for Esme and Priya and Mrs. Vance and Mr. Halpern, who I hope in some version of this found their own quiet ending, and for a woman I never met who walked to a car for her son's medicine and never came back, and who held a note in her hand at the end and trusted a stranger with the only thing she had left to give. The world ended. That part is true. The world also did not end. That part is also true. Both of those things have been true at once, every day since the lights went out in the parking lot. We are still here. We made a small thing out of what was left. We taught 2 girls to read and to plant and to swim and to be kind. We buried what we could not save. We carried what we could. If you are reading this and you have lost someone, I want to tell you something I had to learn the long way. Waiting at the door is not the only way to love someone. Sometimes the love is in the walking. Sometimes the love is in the note you leave behind. Sometimes the love is in choosing, against every instinct, to go. We went. We are glad we went. That is the whole story.